Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. Let us talk about the Jeff Hardy interview. So apparently now we know why Jeff Hardy did what he did. Well, at least we have Jeff Hardy from his own mouth say words, and it's split the fandom. Let's say there's a lot of people who are on Jeff's side. They're anti WWE in general, so it doesn't really matter. Then there's people who are upset at Jeff. There's a lot of feelings. So we're gonna go to the peanut gallery for the first time in a long time. It's been a couple of weeks actually. This isn't really a smart tier segment, as much as it's a let's crowd the knowledge of crowds. Let's look at a lot of people and see if we can get how many different opinions can we really come up with. But first, I want to give my own. So Jeff Hardy says, quote, "In WWE, it was like glimmers of hope. Maybe I do still have something. The last glimmer of hope was at Survivor Series, which was really good. It came down to me and Seth Rollins. The crowd was so behind me. I felt like one of the most popular babyfaces in WWE, but because the crowd was so behind me. Then those other times, I felt like I was a ghost roaming in the halls like, why am I even here? I don't feel important at all. But I kept doing my deal. I just would show up and do whatever they wanted me to do. I've never been a politicker, so I don't go out of my way to try to get a certain spot or achieve a certain status." That's just the beginning. Then he says, "But yeah, that night in Edinburgh, Texas, for some reason, I finished my heat. I took the heat, and I just said, I'm ready to go. I went over the rail and disappeared into the crowd. Naturally, they think I took like something like drugs or whatever, but I didn't. I mean, if I was that bad, I should never have gone out there, is the way I see it. But yeah, I thought, man, that's just another unpredictable thing I can do, and I'll get away with it. But it was more serious than that." The thing that sticks out to me in this whole situation, he says, man, that's just another unpredictable thing I can do, and I'll get away with it. And he was right. He was right. There's a lot of wrestling fans who are absolutely letting Jeff Hardy off the hook. They hate WWE so much, they're letting Jeff Hardy off the hook. But here's the most ridiculous thing, and I want to kind of get to this before we really even get into the rest of it. People who think Jeff Hardy got over on WWE. He was in a nothing 6-man tag. They didn't invest a lot of time or effort into what Jeff Hardy was doing. That's what the early part of this was about, right? He says, I'm like a ghost roaming the halls. Why am I even here? I don't feel important at all. In other words, they were not putting all their eggs behind the basket or in the basket of Jeff Hardy. This happened so he can go somewhere and feel important. And it worked. Obviously, he didn't think that he was going to be fired. I'm not going to say he did that knowing that he would be fired. But it's a weird thing to do. And it's an odd thing to do. And it put WWE in a weird situation. Because if something happens to him, if something happens to somebody in the ring, that's on them. But here is the thing. People think that WWE has somehow been screwed by Jeff Hardy. Tell me, what exactly did WWE lose by firing Jeff Hardy? They lost Jeff Hardy. Was he a top babyface in the company? Absolutely. But he was already on the roster and they weren't doing anything with him. They really didn't care about Jeff Hardy. He was a merchandise machine, sure. But they really didn't care. If they did care, he would have been higher up on the card, and he would not have been anywhere near that 6-man tag that he was in. At least I think it was a 6-man tag. I don't even remember. All right. So, who really got screwed over? The fans. The fans really got screwed over. WWE got paid. You paid to see Jeff Hardy. You got your money. He walked out on you. They still got paid. Nobody got a refund because Jeff Hardy walked out. Nobody got sued because Jeff Hardy walked out. WWE walked away with whatever money they made that night and went to the next show without Jeff Hardy. I mean, did it screw up something creatively? Maybe. Maybe he was factored into something else. Maybe he wasn't. Who knows? We're not going to get into the Hall of Fame thing because we already talked about that way back when he said that it didn't sit right with him because they had fired him and it was an ugly situation and all that kind of stuff, which is he was right to not take the Hall of Fame anyway because Jeff is the kind of guy that will put in twice. Once for his solo career, another for his tag team. But he also wanted it to be with Matt. So he didn't want to, be in the Hall of Fame by himself. And he also didn't want to go into the Hall of Fame and still be unemployed. It didn't sit right. And I understand that and I can agree with him on that. So we're going to leave out the Hall of Fame part. We're going to stick here and focus on this whole thing about Jeff Hardy walking out. So we're going to go into the wisdom of crowds. What does a lot of people think? So here's what the first tweet I see. Jeff Hardy put his body on the line 25 years for our entertainment. He's earned the right to take a night off if he's not feeling it. And he's earned the right to work wherever he wants to work without fake fans bitching about it. I'm sorry. You don't get to walk out on the audience. Toni Storm quit. She performed her match. She left. She said, I'm not coming back. I quit. They fired her. I mean, what more to it could there be? If Jeff Hardy said, look, man, I'm done. I'm going back to Cameron, North Carolina. I'm calling in today. They probably would have said, oh, okay, we'll give you some time off. Let's see what happens or whatever. And who knows, maybe they could have talked it out or whatever the case may be. But if he just walks out in front of the audience, of course they fired him. Why wouldn't they? And then, of course, they assumed that he was on drugs, and I'm pretty sure that irritated him. That probably bothered him. But what else are you thinking? That you think it's normal for guys to just jump the railing and walk through the crowd? That's not normal. That's not normal behavior. And it doesn't matter how long he's been doing this. I think a lot of people are like, he's been doing this for 25 years. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense to me. Who cares how long he's been doing it? If he's been doing this for 25 years, he certainly should know better. That's just me, though. He says, on Jeff Hardy, Keith Lee, or numerous others who have either quit, walked out, or talked after their release, like get off Twitter and get a job and shut the fuck up, especially about professionalism. These people, you see how they are. I love Jeff Hardy, but he's a nut. WWE gave him 1,000 chances with his substance issues. He walks off the job, and they still try to honor him. He's an ingrate. I think the whole Hall of Fame thing was kind of them trying to make things up after he was fired already. So I'm not going to say they tried to honor him. If he was still sitting on the roster doing nothing and they decided to offer him the Hall of Fame, that would have been different. But since, they fired him, they kind of figured, that was the way to get back in. He's going to come back to the Hall of Fame and they was going to talk to him and talk him into signing another contract. And he's probably like, nah. I got this opportunity to go to AEW. I'm going to go ahead and take it. The money is on the table. Why not take it? Seems a little silly for him to go back to do just the Hall of Fame anyway. Just to do a speech and that's it. He can do the speech some other time. He's still a Hall of Famer. It's not like he's less likely to be in the Hall of Fame next year or the year after. Vince is not going to take this stuff personally. If Vince was a true, let's say, hardcore businessman, he probably would have overheard what happened at Victory Road with him and Sting and probably never would have signed Jeff Hardy again. I know I probably would have been skittish about it myself. I'd have been like, sign him for what? This is a guy who they paid a boatload of money to. He went and fucked their main event. Fuck that fan base. Fuck that whole audience up. Fuck that whole show up. No, I'd have been skittish as hell about signing that guy. I would have. I don't know about that one, dog. And that's on top of the time that he, all the times he screwed up in TNA, like breaking his leg and a lot of the DUIs and stuff like that. Man, I don't know. And I've been saying for years that as much as I love Jeff Hardy, he's a guy that I would definitely be concerned about in terms of whether I would personally sign him or not, because you do have to consider your fan base. So the next tweet, if you think Jeff Hardy is unprofessional for leaving a company that supports Saudi Arabian bloody hands after releasing almost 90 wrestlers in the middle of a pandemic for budget cuts whilst being millionaires, because he wanted to be appreciated, please unfollow me. Well, I don't follow this guy anyway, so I'm not really concerned about that. Not really too concerned about that part. But none of this has anything to do with Jeff Hardy. Saudi Arabia, he performed in Saudi Arabia. So did Jeff somehow say he wasn't going to Saudi Arabia? No, he went. So why would you even bring that up? It's just anti-WWE horseshit. It ain't got nothing to do with Jeff Hardy. Maturing is realizing what Jeff Hardy did was right. No, that's just called being a tribalist. Jeff Hardy was wrong. He's absolutely wrong. There's just no two ways about it. Who did Jeff Hardy fuck? He fucked the audience. WWE still got paid. Jeff Hardy probably still got paid for that show. The only people who didn't get what they wanted was the audience. But that's why you are definitely deserving of being called marks. William Regal, oh, I would never use the word mark. Because it's detrimental and degrading to somebody who gives you all their money and time. It's like, yeah, people do give their money and time to wrestlers, and then other wrestling fans tell you you're not worth shit. You can shut the fuck up because you're not them. What I wanted was what's happening. Therefore, it's okay. No, it's not okay. Let's see. Jeff Hardy's a fucking legend. Yeah, that's true. I'm seeing a lot of people slating Jeff Hardy for walking out of the live event. I mean, if you'd rather him get the Mustafa Ali treatment, then good for you, I guess. But I agree with him. It was a smart move. If he'd asked for his release, do you honestly think he would have gotten it? Well, we don't know. There were people who did ask for their release and they got it. So for every Mustafa Ali, there's a Tony Storm. There's somebody who wanted to be cut and they got cut. We don't know the difference between what Mustafa Ali is going on with him and what other people had going on. We don't know. So trying to use Mustafa Ali as look at that example of a guy who wanted to ask for his release and he didn't get it. We don't know why. You don't know the inside baseball of what's going on with Mustafa Ali. If Jeff Hardy would have asked to be released, he might have actually gotten it. We don't know. And to deny us the knowledge of knowing doesn't make him right. It just means that he decided to avoid the question altogether because maybe he didn't want to quit. Maybe he just didn't want to work that fucking match, and that could have been it. You know? Who knows? Let's see. Jeff walking out of a WWE in the middle of a match is unprofessional. Big fan of him, but that wasn't smart. To the people that think it was cool for him to do that are the same ones who can't keep a job or don't have one. Less childish, more maturity. I don't think that's the case. I think that it's mostly just tribalists. People who think this is a cool story that WWE is getting dunked on by the Hardy Boys. But they're a nostalgia act. That's literally what they're doing right now. And that's cool, I guess. I mean, the Rock and Roll Express was a nostalgia act for a long time too. But, you know, I'm not angry at Jeff. You know, I just wanted to know why. And now that I know why, I'm kind of like, man, that is kind of stupid. But it happened. Jeff leaving didn't fuck over WrestleMania or anything like that. It got AEW another guy who, you know, now I guess can sit on the bench or work tag team matches, I guess, you know. But it is what it is. I'm not too concerned about it. Another one. After hearing Jeff Hardy just walked out because he wasn't happy in WWE made me lose a lot of respect for him. It's disappointing to hear someone you look up to give up like that. That's an interesting argument. Did he give up? I don't think he walked out with the intention of being fired or quitting. I don't think that was the case. You know, it's hard, and he didn't really do a good job of verbalizing what he expected to get out of just hopping into the crowd. I don't know what he was trying to get out of that situation. You know, and I didn't listen to the whole thing because I wasn't going to sit down and listen to an entire Matt Hardy podcast to listen to Jeff explain something that I probably could have guessed from the beginning. I just wanted to know his reasoning. If his reasoning is, I just didn't feel appreciated, that's perfectly fine. That's, you know, the reason why you would go to Vince and say, hey, look, man, I don't think y'all need me here. You know, if I'm beating up my body, why do this? You know, I'm ready to go. You know, whatever. But to walk out on the audience seems very weird to me, and I don't. There's not too much in the camp of things that make sense there. Here's another one. You ain't black if your team Vince MAGA McMahon over Jeff Hardy today. What the fuck does being black have to do with any of this? See, this is what I mean. Look at these people. Vince MAGA McMahon. Who do you think made Jeff Hardy a millionaire? I mean, who the hell signed Jeff Hardy when he was, 16, 17 years old? Who is the one who made Jeff Hardy the household name that you're worshiping online today? What the fuck? This is not a dispute between Jeff and Vince. Vince got paid. Jeff fucked the audience. Vince got paid. He didn't care. What do you think he gives a fuck about? Sure, he probably cares because Jeff Hardy is a guy he's known for a long time. But he still cashed his checks. The company cashed their checks. Nobody asked for a refund. Nobody got a refund. The company did not lose money because Jeff Hardy walked out. The crowd lost Jeff Hardy. Oh, he did all his spots though. I can't wait to get to that one. Jeff Hardy said, "I'm done. Peace. That's my boy." These people are really weird. Let's see. Let's keep it a buck. Jeff Hardy don't care about being called unprofessional. That man could get away with murder in broad daylight. That is absolutely true. And that's why he said what he said. You know, it's one more unpredictable thing I can do and I'll probably get away with it. And that sticks in my craw because that kind of smacks of nobody's going to do anything. And then somebody did do something and all of a sudden, oh shit, Jeff's the victim. It's like, wait a minute. He had it in his mind that he could do whatever he wanted. Now, in some degree, he should be able to have some leeway. He is Jeff Hardy. But he's fucked up a lot. And if you look at people who, you would say they get away with some shit, Jeff Hardy wouldn't be on that list. All the DUIs, all the arrests, all the injuries, the time he fucked over again, TNA, a whole pay-per-view. I don't know if Jeff Hardy's one of those guys that we can be like, it's just Jeff. He can do whatever he wants. He's not somebody with a sparkling reputation here. That's not what we're talking about. If it was a guy like a Cesaro or something, a guy who had never really did anything wrong, he just kind of decided, you know what, my brain broken today, I'm out of here. I could at least be like, you know what, it's the first time he's ever did anything silly or fucked up like this. Maybe we went too far. But this is Jeff Hardy, This is Jeff Hardy here. This is a guy who, is lucky to be in the position that he's in. Let's just put it like that. Another one. Lost interest in Jeff Hardy years ago. Then I slowly was warming up to him and beginning to appreciate his work. Then he goes and does that. And the people praising this kind of quote-unquote professionalism clearly never worked a day in their lives. Another one. I love Jeff Hardy, but that was unprofessional. Somebody says, shout out to the time Jeff Hardy came to my local Wendy's for some reason. I don't know who Ryan O'Reilly is. Let's see. Let's continue. He said, I like Jeff Hardy, but you cannot walk away in mid of a match. It's unprofessional. If he wanted to quit, he could have done the same thing Toni Storm did. Just finish her match and quit. Jeff Hardy quitted in a match is similar to Antonio Brown quitting in the middle of a Bucks game. I wish I was smart enough on sports to know how this worked. But, in fact, I do remember a football player walking off the field in the middle of the game. Didn't he get fined or suspended or something like that for doing that? I mean, it would have been an interesting character for Jeff Hardy if they'd agreed to him doing it. Jeff's just going to start doing weird shit, like walking out in the middle of matches and slapping hands with the crowd. And, that could have been a way to make his character more interesting and do weird things and kind of be like, what the fuck are they doing with Jeff? Where Jeff is just like walking out in the middle of matches all of a sudden. Things getting hard and he's just walking out. Almost like a loose cannon type of gimmick. That would have been interesting, But Jeff Hardy is also one of those guys who he had all these ideas of things that he wanted to do. And WWE was not really flexible with them. Like, he wanted to bring back Willow. And WWE was like, nah. The money is in Jeff Hardy, not in whatever the fuck Jeff Hardy wants to do. He wants to play dress up. Nah, we don't want to do that. I don't see any problem with him being Willow. Everybody knows it's Jeff Hardy. But, It was just something that he was talking about in interviews that he never really got to do. And I'm sure that was part of the issue too, is he never really got to do any of the things he wanted to do, you know? But he also says that he doesn't really talk to the office. So it's like, you want to do a bunch of things you're telling people in interviews, you're not really telling your boss. You know, like, hey, Vince, I want to go do a different, side of my character, and maybe that gets shut down, maybe it doesn't, we don't know. But I'm sure that added on to it. So it says, nothing puts a smile on my face like WWE being made to look like fools. So Jeff Hardy has my support. If you think they look like fools, well, I think maybe the person who fired him looked like a fool. If he passed the drug test, which everyone says that he did. Everyone says he did. But I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty suspicious about that. All right. I'm pretty suspicious about the whole Jeff passed everything. I don't know. But then again, when they offered him the Hall of Fame thing, maybe they figured, okay, he was clean. We don't know. See, Jeff Hardy on his departure. Okay. These other things. See, Jeff Hardy pulled a Rob Gronkowski Lions trade type fines on WWE. I don't understand what any of that means. It says, what's going on here? Imagine being more mad at the guy who walked out of a match than the company who tried to addict shame him, ruin his reputation and value, and then withheld his lab results. Considering he did all that to himself. He was the addict who ruined his own reputation. WWE didn't do that. He wanted to do the whole storyline with the alcohol and everything. That was his idea, as far as I know. Now, I'm pretty sure that will change as things tend to do. It was okay. It was cool. It was fun. And then years later, when they see that the fans are still like, oh, no, you were a victim. You're like, yeah, you know what? I was a victim all of a sudden of things that were my idea from the beginning. Somebody says, all these butthurt fans mad at Jeff Hardy today because of how he left WWE. Get over it. He is in AEW now, somewhere where he is wanted and respected. I don't care how he left. I'm just happy he did. That's because you didn't pay when he walked out. I really want to hear that. I want to hear from those people who paid to be there and he didn't finish that match. That's the audience I really want to hear from, but the likelihood of me finding somebody who was actually there, minimal. But then you want to know what's even worse? Not the grown folks who are patting Jeff Hardy on the back, but the kids. That's even worse. Imagine being one of those little kids. I don't know. And you paid to see Jeff Hardy? Man, I don't know about that, dog. Somebody says you can love Jeff Hardy while also admitting he was wrong. That is absolutely true. Somebody says Jeff Hardy's explanation confirmed to me that he knows his worth. Okay. Brock Lesnar literally threw the Universal Championship in Vince McMahon's face as soon as he got to Gorilla on camera, and he is still main eventing WrestleMania this year. So once again, let's not have a moral compass about Jeff Hardy for walking out. Yeah, Brock did his business and then went to the back. He probably didn't know there was a camera there. And he took his problems to Vince. Jeff Hardy walked out in the middle of a non-televised match. It would have been worse if it was on TV, I think. But it was non-televised, so it doesn't matter. Somebody says, fuck Jeff Hardy, the scrawny fuck. I don't know. He used to be scrawny. I don't think he's so much scrawny anymore. Somebody says, I used to work for a company that I felt unhappy in. If I wanted to, I could have done what Jeff Hardy did, empty my desk and leave mid-shift with my colleagues and peers looking all confused. But it didn't happen. I chose not to sign a new contract and left on my own accord. Yes, that's, one way of doing things. You can always do things the right way, which is what he did. Hey, my contract is over. I'm out of here. I'm up. I'm gone. Peace. Which, but Jeff did just re-sign a new contract, if I remember correctly, probably not that long ago. So if he really had to sit out and wait, who knows how long he would have been sitting out. The thing is, and I think this is the honest to God truth, and nobody will admit it, is that when you see a lot of these guys who are leaving WWE to go to AEW, so many of them end up it's either obvious when you see it or it ends up trickling out later that they were having conversations with people who were already in AEW. Like Matt got Jeff, and I mean, Jeff got Matt, right? Matt's already there. Matt's like, look, man, this guy's going to pay us a ton of fucking money. You only got to work 1 day a week. You need to get your ass over here right now. Do whatever it takes to get here right now. And you find out that, John Moxley was one of the guys talking to Bryan Danielson. That the Young Bucks, they're talking to Adam Cole. Adam Cole's talking to O'Reilly and Fish. Like, hey, you guys need to bring it on, man. What are you guys doing? You guys are wasting your time. We can make more money here than we can make in NXT. What are you doing? You only got to work 1 day a week. It's a sweet deal. It doesn't take that much. And it's not a big conspiracy. If you worked at a great place, wouldn't you tell your friend? Or if a place that you think is great, you would tell your friends. You would tell your brother. It's not a conspiracy. But if you talk to people about this, they'll think it's a horrible idea. It's like, well, sure, if you're friends with the Young Bucks, they can get you a great deal. If your brother is Jeff Hardy, I'm sure they're going to bring him in. They're not going to have any problems getting that guy in there. But there's a ton of guys out there who probably could have been signed by AEW who they're not looking at and they're not looking to bring in, mainly because they don't have any friends in AEW. They're nobody's buddy. And they're not a name. So we don't know. We don't know. We'll see. What Jeff Hardy did was unprofessional. But if he straight up asked for his release, would they have given it to him? I highly doubt they would. Again, we don't know. We don't know. We don't have any idea. Somebody says, Mustafa Ali is a bigger man than Jeff Hardy. He could have quit like Jeff, but he still chose to stay and still gets paid. Ali wins. This guy says, Jeff Hardy had enough and decided to do what he had to do. If he had requested his release, he would have ended up like Mustafa Ali right now. There's no guarantee of that. And I think too many people are trying to lean on that to justify his bad behavior in their minds. It's amazing what kind of post hoc justifications we'll come up with for people we actually like. Because most of these people like Jeff Hardy. They will come up for any justification whatsoever. If Jeff Hardy says, look, I stubbed my toe that day, I didn't feel like it. They're like, well, the guy had a stubbed toe. What the fuck were you going to do? They trying to force him to wrestle with a stubbed toe. He ain't got to wrestle with no stubbed toe. He can do whatever he wants. It wouldn't matter what he said. It didn't matter what he said. They would have sided with him anyway. Because in their minds, fed bad, fed evil. Period. So the debate makes no sense. My thing is there are good reasons to walk off a job. There are some good reasons to do it. I'm not above that. If you are in danger, or if you're hurt and you walked off, that'd have been perfectly fine. But that also would have been something they would have handled if that was the case. If Jeff Hardy was injured and he rolled out of the ring and went into the crowd, they would have been like, oh, okay, Jeff was hurt. They wouldn't have thought two things about it. He'd have got some help or whatever the case may be, and he'd been back on the road or whatever the case. Because there was nothing physically wrong with him. They thought, okay, well, there's obviously something else then. So it's hard to argue with people who don't matter what happens. They were going to side with Jeff anyway. Somebody says, why is anybody surprised at the unprofessional nature of Jeff Hardy? Do I need to remind you of Victory Road? I don't care that he left, but WWE handled this situation all wrong. This is a situation where you make a guy sit and rot until the end of his contract. They should not have released him. I think firing him was probably the best thing to do. Ultimately, I'm not for making guys sit out long periods because you got to pay the fucking guy. He's on a downside guarantee. You got to fucking pay him. Why continue paying him? Just fire him and send him on his way. If he goes to AEW and start collecting more money, who cares? Nobody cares how many guys AEW signs. Ultimately, it won't make a bit of fucking difference anyway. Because it all matters of what they do with you and not who you are. So somebody says, I've been a Jeff Hardy supporter for a very long time. One of my favorites of my childhood, but man, I get it. Somebody says, I have been pissed to pay to see a wrestler and he or she walked out there like, screw the fans, I'm out of here. I'm a Jeff Hardy fan, but he's never going to get clean and stay clean. I don't think he wants to. Oh, well, I can't believe Jeff Hardy did that to the most professional company on the planet. Um, Again, it matters that it happens to WWE. So when he did it to TNA, was that okay? Oh no, because TNA, they did something at some other point in history that had nothing to do with him. It's like Jeff Hardy could have been one of the 90 guys that they fired for no apparent reason. He wasn't, though. He ain't got nothing to do with that. And that has absolutely nothing to do with him. And that had nothing to do with the situation. Jeff didn't say, well, I walked out of that crowd because a few of my friends were released for no good reason. I decided I don't want to be here anymore. At least then I could have been like, well, at least you could tie those two things together. They're trying to tie that shit together because their own headcanon said that this is the right thing to do. Again, it doesn't matter. Fed bad. They will say and do whatever. Nothing matters. There's no moral compass here. I don't care about WWE didn't lose $100 million or a TV contract or something like that because Jeff Hardy walked out. Those fans got fucked. That's the long and the short of it. Vince still got paid. The company still made money. And they went on to the next show without Jeff. And they've been doing 100 shows without Jeff. You're not going to make a ton of money in Saudi Arabia and at WrestleMania and even on Raw and SmackDown, selling out buildings without Jeff. They're going to be fine, So the idea that, Jeff fucked over the Fed, it's like, come on, man. You got to be small brain to think that. Another one, my 2 cents on the Jeff Hardy thing. It's not about him leaving and going elsewhere. It's about his actions and how he left that is the issue. He could have gone about this so many different ways than how he acted. I'm disappointed, to be honest. There's a lot of people who are disappointed, but it is what it is. You're not allowed to be upset or disappointed or whatever. You're supposed to just side with Jeff no matter what because you're a super fan. I didn't know being a fan of somebody meant you had to accept every single thing that they ever did. It's like, no, Jeff is a guy who was, in this situation. See, Jeff Hardy was chasing a 24/7 or in catering. They were not paying to see him. I think that's false. That is false. People still want to see you, even if you're not doing anything major. That's the thing. There's still people doing, Jeff Hardy's little hand sign, and there are still people dressed up to see Jeff, even though they know Jeff is not doing anything top, major. Rey Mysterio is in that spot right now. Rey Mysterio's not doing anything that is, rattling Roman Reigns or anything right now. He's in a throwaway tag team match at WrestleMania. But there are still tons of people who jump out of their seats when Rey Mysterio's music plays. The idea that people are only paying to see the folks at the top is silly. That's different. No, that's not how wrestling works. You can draw from pretty much anywhere on the card, and some people are going to be, pushed down so other people can be pushed up. There's going to be, where are they in the pecking order at this particular moment in time? And then that stuff changes. It changes with the season, with the event, with the storyline, that kind of thing. But thinking that people, just because Jeff wasn't doing anything right now, that people were not paying to see him is ridiculous. That is pretty ridiculous. I'm pretty sure he was still selling merchandise. I'm sure people still wanted to see Jeff Hardy. They were still watching his videos on YouTube. Jeff Hardy did nothing wrong. Well, that's wrong. Imagine reforming one of the greatest tag teams of all time in AEW or hanging about WWE chasing the 24/7 title. Good for Jeff Hardy. Hey, look, hey, we get to be the Hardy Boys again and get to do shows at high schools. Like, you see some of the pathetic shit that they're doing now, him and Matt. They're basically doing a house show loop of their own, working in high schools and all kind of stuff, doing tag team matches and, on the indies. Look, if that's what he wants to do, far be it from me to tell him otherwise. But it is what it is. I don't care. I don't care either way. He's going out there to collect more bumps and get paid less to do it. I mean, that's on him. But I'm pretty sure that AEW contract is going to cover it up. Somebody says, RIP Jeff Hardy's wrestling career. On Fridays like this, my respect for him is lost. His wrestling career is far from over. Let's not get ridiculous. You can say you don't respect him anymore. You can say that you're disappointed in him. I think a lot of people are disappointed. I just looked at it like, Jeff being Jeff. Jeff is doing what Jeff does. After what Jeff pulled in TNA, man, that's when I was at the height of my disappointment for Jeff. I will always be a Jeff Hardy super fan, for sure. That doesn't mean that the guy walks on water. You know, he doesn't. He's a fuck up, and he always has been. You know, he just kind of look over it and hope that he gets over his fuck ups. And if he wants to make new ones, then he's just going to keep making new ones. I mean, it is what it is. Somebody says, are you condoning what WWE did or condemning what Jeff Hardy did? What does, I don't understand. What is WWE supposed to do? The guy walked out in the middle of a match. They offered him some type of rehab. If he said no, and then they fired him. If he could have said, no, I don't need it, or I don't need rehab, this was the issue. He could have even lied and said, hey, I was hurt, whatever. He chose to just say, fucking I'm out of here. Hey, I mean, it's what it is. Somebody says, all of this just to go team with his brother again in what has been a very stale act for a long time now. Hardy Boy stuff has run its course. It was better finally seeing Jeff as a singles guy again. Plus, WWE gave him no more words. He was probably going to get to face Reigns. That last part I'm not entirely sure about because Jeff's been gone for a little while now. And you have to ask the question, what was he going to do in order to get to that position against Roman Reigns? He seemed to me like he would have been a guy that Roman beat on TV like he beat Rey Mysterio on TV. That kind of felt like that's what it would have been to me. I just don't see it, man. I don't see WWE really putting so much effort behind Jeff, So at least from the perspective of he didn't feel appreciated, I can understand that. He is Jeff Hardy, for Christ's sake. You actually could, and you'd probably be fired, which is probably something Jeff Hardy wanted. So I don't see the point. Again, he's not complaining about being fired. He's probably happy. But fuck it if he's happy, right? I don't understand what's people's obsession with fucking happiness. They don't even know happiness is temporary. These people are so fucking dumb, and it's almost childish in a way. Happiness is not a permanent state of being. It's all temporary. He's happy in AEW. He's only been there 2 weeks. He's been there 2 weeks. Oh, he's so happy. Let's see what happens if he's there 6 months, 8 months, a year, or whatever. Let's see what happens. We don't know. I think people just get too caught up on you're happy. It's like, yeah, everybody's happy right now. If you are happy eating a slice of cake, are you going to keep eating cake? It's like, no, because once you eat the cake, you're happy for that moment. And then, there's a whole psychological process that goes into that. I just watched a video on that, as a matter of fact. I think it's called hedonic something or other. Hedonic something. I don't know. I can't think off the top of my head. But we'll come back to it. Let's see. Nope, that has nothing to do with Jeff. Somebody says, honestly, had it been any other company, I'd agree, but it's just because it's Jeff Hardy. But I can't pin blame on him for the sole fact that WWE is just unprofessional. Like all these time, if they can release people at any time, people will up and leave at any time. Yes, sure. But they don't fire people in the middle of their match and say, get the fuck out of our ring, get out of here. They fire people while they're sitting at home, doing nothing. They say, hey, you're fired, beat it. Whatever. We don't need you for whatever Wednesday show is about to take place. We don't need you. You get a heads up that you don't need to be at the next show, rather than in the middle of the show saying I'm gonna walk out. I just don't see it. There's just no way, just no two ways about it. I see people really stretch Armstrong. They're really Mr. Fantastic about this whole thing. They're trying very, very hard to justify this to themselves. You don't need to. Just say, Fed bad, Jeff good. The end of, I'm an AEW fan. I hate WWE. This works for me. At least that would be honest. At least that would be honest. Because then you could say, fuck the Fed and their fans. I'm saying at least think of the fans. It's not about WWE. People will quit because people have been quitting WWE for a long time. People have no-showed shows before. I was at a show where the Ultimate Warrior no-showed. I don't know if I ever told that story before. I was 12 years old, 1996. I was supposed to be I was at a show that the Ultimate Warrior was advertised for. He no-showed. We got Sid instead. I did not hate the Ultimate Warrior for that. Mainly because I didn't know he wasn't supposed to be there. It would have been different if the Ultimate Warrior had showed up, run to the ring, did 3 spots, and then took off into the crowd. I'd have been like, what the fuck? What was going on here? And I'm a big fan of the Ultimate Warrior. I didn't actually know he was supposed to be there until I was like an adult. And I was like, oh shit, I was at one of these shows. One of the few shows I've ever been to, by the way. I've been to, the amount of wrestling shows I've been to can fit on one hand, and that was one of them, and the Ultimate Warrior skipped that show. I was upset by it. You know, when I found out, I was like, damn, that's fucked up. I could have got to see the Ultimate Warrior live. But I got to see Sid. Sid rules. So that was cool. You know, was it a fair trade? Probably not, because Warrior didn't work that many matches. You know, but I got to see Sid, so Sid was cool. Jeff Hardy is a lifelong loser. I don't know about that. He's a multimillionaire. You know, he makes bad decisions, but I wouldn't call him a loser. Story of Jeff Hardy's career. Literally the most unprofessional, unhinged wrestler of all time, because he jumped off high shit means all his sins are forgiven. Wow. People like Jeff, and I think Jeff is a genuinely likable guy. I think that generally speaking, people just saw that he was kind of burned out and that he wasn't truly being appreciated the right way. And they understand. And I think that's what a lot of it, a lot of this is fed bad, but some of it is that people just understand. You know, some of it is just that people understand. You know, they get what it's like to be a Jeff Hardy. And I get what it's like being Jeff Hardy. You know, every time I walk into a fucking job, I feel like I'm not appreciated. You know, everybody sees when you fuck up. Nobody sees when you do anything good or when you do your job the right way. You know, it's always with this kind of stuff. But you can't expect your job to kiss your fucking ass. You know, you have to have some level of professionalism and say, look, I'm going to do my thing until I find something else. Which is usually what you do. You know, sometimes a gift will occur, like this occurred. You know, he got gifted with a firing for doing something that was kind of erratic. But, you know, that's very rare. I remember one time I was so miserable at a job. The job ended up going out of business because I couldn't quit. You know, it's like I was too tired to quit. I was too caught up in the grind to quit. Like, you don't know how fucked up that is. I was working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Every time you go home, you go to sleep almost immediately. You wake up, go right back out. You be thinking about quitting every day. And then 4 days have gone by. 6 days have gone by. And you're like, holy shit. Am I going to quit? What should I do? And the whole time I got to focus on the job. Do that. They got to focus on getting enough sleep. Focus on getting something to eat. You know, focus on trying to find a life. And then next you know, a month has gone by. You wanted to quit, but a month has gone by. 2 months has gone by. I got lucky and that place got put out of business. But when I heard that the place was going out of business, that's when I started making my exit plan. Because I was like, oh shit, I don't got a choice now. You know, now Jeff is not in my position. You know, he already had this exit plan. His exit plan was Matt, you know, who was probably nagging him, saying, you need to come to AEW, you need to come to AEW. Let's go back to this. Not enough about me. I love Jeff Hardy, but I feel like if a report came out regarding a WWE wrestler walking out mid-match at a live event, and that wrestler happened to not be a, quote, internet favorite, the reaction would be completely different. Yeah, imagine if it was Happy Corbin that had walked out in the middle of a show. People would have been like, oh, who the fuck is this guy? What do he think he is? That's a double standard. Double standards are no standards. I absolutely agree with that. I get that. That's an absolutely good quote. So let me get this straight. It's a different person. Wrestling Twitter saying erase Jeff Hardy legacy because he walked out of a job. Y'all never quit a job before. I don't think anybody wants to erase Jeff Hardy's legacy. Jeff Hardy's legacy is him being a fuck up. That's just part of it. That's just part of it. You know, Jeff Hardy fucking up the bag is part of it. But this is just in this situation, he fucked up a bag to get a bigger bag, more than likely. Or at least a bag of similar size. and to get a little bit more appreciation where he has a boss that's a mark. I mean, it is what it is. Some of y'all attacked Toni Storm despite her finishing up her match and giving notice like a professional, but don't have that same energy when Jeff left both fans and coworkers high and dry because he wanted a bigger spot and felt he could, quote, get away with it. This is a very good one. There are some people. Now, there's not many, I'm sure. Because I'm pretty sure when Toni Storm walked out, some of the same people who are fed bad said, oh, she got hit in the face with a pie. So, yeah, this is great. She walked out because she wasn't being used properly. This is great. And she's been gone for a long time, and I have not heard anything about why she quit. Don't you think that's weird? That's a kind of a little aside. Toni Storm disappeared from WWE in December. It's the middle of March. Not only is her contract, her 90 days is no doubt up by now. The only thing we've gotten out of her is, I'm about to have an OnlyFans account. That's about like it. No reason why she walked out. No reason why she quit. Nothing. Just, sub to my OnlyFans. Like, girl, we've already seen your nudes. Like, we've already seen them. They're already out there if you're looking. If you want to pay, well, I pays her when the news are out there, bruh. Come on. Why wrestling Twitter pissed at Jeff Hardy? Nah, not too many people are pissed at Jeff Hardy. A lot of people actually are on his side. See, my timeline is so divided on Jeff Hardy right now. Yeah, some people are. Here's another one. Jeff Hardy has been given more chances than passes by both fans and wrestling companies for far too long. Intentionally behaving in a manner that made WWE think he was on something, i.e. Victory Road 2011. Then tried to play the victim speaks volumes about his unprofessionalism. This is a good one too, because you are talking about the opportunities. Again, you have to think about this. These are companies. They make decisions based off of financial gain, whatever, right? But think about this kind of thing if in your real life. If somebody treated you how Jeff Hardy treated TNA, would you continue to bring that guy back? Understand, they kept bringing Jeff Hardy back after Victory Road. After he went and did dirt bike shit and broke his leg, which could have been a freak accident. It happens. But as the way he treated, and then the way they left TNA, how Rebby and these guys absolutely acted an ass on Impact, rightly or wrongly. You talk about this company that supported them when they were going through their shit. They could have fired them for being assholes, getting DUIs, getting arrested for being on drugs and all kinds of stuff. The company hung in there with them. WWE did the same thing. They hung in there with these guys. Through rehabs, through no-shows, through fuck-ups in other companies, fuck-ups on their own watch. They stuck with them. You would have to ask that question. How many chances do somebody really deserve? And I think Jeff, in those 25 years, we do have to ask the question of how many chances do we really give the guy? Is this the thorn that breaks the camel's back? To me, no, it's not that big of a deal. He walked out of a match. It fucked that audience, and he should be ashamed of himself for that. But he didn't kill anybody. He didn't murder anybody, so it's not that big of a deal. It's not the W that a lot of the AEW fans thinks that it is. But it is unprofessional, and I think people saying it's unprofessional, that's the least of it. It's unprofessional. It is absolutely unprofessional. That's just a fact. But he didn't murder anybody. Nobody wants Jeff Hardy strung up by his ankles and beat with sticks. That's ridiculous. Why would you want that? Guy just wanted to work somewhere else. Jeff Hardy has lost all my respect. Ooh. So for what it's worth, after checking out the Jeff Hardy thing, yeah, I'd have done the same thing. There comes a point when a toxic work situation is so bad that you do anything to get out of it. This doesn't sound like that situation. He didn't say anything was toxic. He just said, I didn't feel appreciated. It felt like a ghost wandering in the halls or whatever. Meaning he was probably just being ignored. That people were not really paying attention to him. That's probably the worst of it. He wasn't getting a lot of attention. Again, is your boss supposed to kiss your ass? There's 400 fucking wrestlers on the roster. And you're not allowed to fire anybody, apparently. So Vince supposed to give everybody individual attention like they're a kindergartner? What was you supposed to do? Jeff's been there for 30 fucking years. He's been in the business. Vince trying to push some new guys. I get it. Tony Khan is mildly interested in pushing new guys, but he would rather have those nostalgia pops any day. So why not let Jeff go over to AEW? Which I think would have been a magnanimous thing for Vince to do, is just to fire Jeff and let him go over to AEW. It says, Jeff Hardy, explanation confirmed to me, he's a badass, he's a punk, and gained the system to get in his advantage. He's smart. I don't know. If I was Tony Khan, I would look at his history with TNA, and now his history with WWE, his history with the law, and I would say, is that really smart? Is it really smart for you to have such a terrible reputation? Is that smart? No, it's not smart. It's not smart at all, but, whatever. I don't know what Jeff Hardy did, but unless he murdered or raped someone, we're all good. Jeff Hardy is the GOAT and will continue to be one. I don't disagree with that. Yeah, he didn't murder or rape anybody, so he can do whatever he wants. You can call him an asshole, you can call him an idiot, you can call him whatever you want, but he didn't actually actively harm anybody, Let's see. How many more of these things we're going to do? I want to try to do a full hour, but I'm not saying any more interesting things. Here's another one. Wrestlers in America really need to learn from Jeff Hardy. He walked out when he felt unappreciated and undervalued. If you as a wrestler don't believe what you're being booked to, take up for it. Don't go to social media and cry for a release. Actions speak louder than words. I wouldn't necessarily tell people to, quit in the middle of a show. I wouldn't tell people about that. This Jeff Hardy news came out a while ago and people waited until his first match to make a big deal about it. No, because the podcast just came out and he talked about it with his own mouth, rather than talking through Matt. And that's the one thing I didn't really care for. I don't care about Matt, talking to Matt. Not a single soul gives a shit if you've lost respect for Jeff Hardy for making WWE look like clowns. Bro was on his Michael Schofield shit and done whatever it took to get out of there. Couldn't love that guy any more than I already do. And somebody says, considering who's in his profile picture, and it's CM Punk, guess he likes unprofessional douchebags. Yes, Jeff Hardy is a giant douchebag after walking out on his colleagues and the fans who paid to see him. That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. You walked out in the middle of, that would have been, that's another, low key thing that I spent almost an hour talking about. And I didn't even mention how his colleagues must have felt. Imagine you was one of those guys who was tag teaming with Jeff. And then you turn around and Jeff's in the crowd. You're like, wait a minute, what the fuck is going on here? Now we have to reconfigure this entire match because Jeff decided he was going to take a walk. I would be pretty pissed. I would, and would I take it personally? No, unless I got hurt or something like that in the match or something very, very bad happened to me because Jeff walked out. I probably would be like, yo, you couldn't give us a heads up. You couldn't just say, hey man, I'm out of here. My stomach hurt or whatever the case may be. I gotta go to the bathroom or something. I did my shit. Let me run to the bathroom real quick. I'd have been like, okay, well, whatever, do your thing. But, this whole thing, but when it's fed bad, it's fed. Everything that touches the fed is bad. Fuck the cameraman, fuck the wrestlers, fuck the ropes, fuck the guardrail, fuck everything. People just stop thinking and just start turning their brain up to, whatever is bad. I'm getting kind of tired with this. Let's see. It's so weird how people are trying to paint Jeff Hardy as this bad guy for walking out on the fans. One, they didn't buy a ticket to see Jeff Hardy meet and greet. They bought a ticket to a WWE event, which they got. Two, WWE created this environment by not granting releases. He did what he had to do. I didn't see that he even asked for a release. That's the thing. Like, if he asked for his release, they said, no, we're not going to give it. He's like, okay, well, I'll go to this show and I'll walk out in the middle of it. Then I can say, well, he asked for his release first and they didn't want to give it to him. Again, you can't just go. They're trying very, very hard to justify this to themselves. They're trying very, very hard to justify this to themselves. And look, it's ridiculous. And it said they didn't pay to see a Jeff Hardy meet and greet. They paid for just because Jeff Hardy's name was on the live event. He came out there, you know. They wanted him. They wanted to see him. They wanted to see everybody who's there. Essentially, you know, nobody comes to stare at a WWE poster. There wants to be wrestlers in the building. You know, that's the thing. You know, and if he walk out in the middle of a fucking match, he'd probably walk out in the middle of a live event, a meet and greet too. Why wouldn't he? Somebody says, why on earth would I pretend to be upset about Jeff Hardy walking out on WWE and getting away with it because they think he was tweaking? Yeah, they think he was tweaking. So Jeff Hardy intentionally got fired by just leaving the arena and making the crowd think you had a drug issue, but instead you cowardly walk out of a match. Let the wrestlers down and the crowd down. Very cowardly way to let the WWE fans down. No respect for you, Jeff. People going on about Jeff Hardy being unprofessional. Not like the E didn't fire a ton of people amidst a pandemic or anything. They are known for their professionalism. Get the fuck out of here with that narrative. Again, one thing has nothing to do with the other. Jeff Hardy was not fired because other people were fired. He did not quit because other people were fired. He was still on the roster even after all of those people got fired. He was accepting money to do a job that he decided he didn't want to do. That's completely different than other people who were willing to do the job and then told, we don't need you. If anything, Jeff quitting is when he took up roster space for all the other people that they could have fired him, saved them some money, and kept the other people. You know, well, we can't really have that conversation either. You know, I would have loved for people to be as diplomatic as that. For Vince McMahon to say, hey, do you want to be here? To everybody who makes a certain amount of money. Hey, you make $2 million. Do you want to be here? Because if you want to go, there's a bunch of people on the roster who make $100,000, $150K. I'll keep them and get rid of your monkey ass if you don't want to be here. But the guys who make $250,000, you can stay because I'm going to get rid of this motherfucker. I'm making a millionaire right here because he's a dickhead. He don't want to be here anymore. He think he can make more money in AEW playing video games online or some shit. So he's going to go ahead and do that. And you can take his spot on Raw. I mean, I wish a company would be smart enough to do some shit like that. All these multimillionaires I'm sitting here making, and they're not doing anything. Fire these fucking guys and replace them with people who we've had to pay less money to. Why wouldn't you? It's smart, especially if they're gonna be grumbling on Twitter all the fucking time. Get rid of these fucking guys. I'm all about firing people who don't want to be there. I'm all about cutting people who are grumbling because they don't want to be there. And sure, it can be a temporary thing. Just like happiness is temporary, so is sadness, so is depression, so is anger. We all go through that at the job. You know, there's going to be days where you're better at it than others, and you're in a better mood than other times. You ask me on the right day, and it depends on what time of the day you ask me, if I hate my job or not. If you ask me 10 hours into the day, I hate everything. I hate the job. I hate everybody that I work with. I hate everything. I hate oxygen. I hate water because I've been here for 12 fucking hours already. I hate everybody. Let me go home and go to sleep. If you ask me at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'll be like, you know what? I ain't thrilled about it, but ain't nothing bad happened yet. You know, I just got here. You know, it's a completely different thing yet. I'm okay. If you ask me at 6 o'clock, I'm ready to go. You know, I don't care. You want to fire me? I don't give a shit. I'm ready to go. And if I ever get fired from a job, fire me while I'm at home. Don't wait till I come in the building first. You can say, hey, bring me your badge or whatever. I'll be like, okay, sweet. I'll bring it. I ain't got no problem with that. You know, there's the people who get fired in the middle of the shift. That's really funny to me. I've been doing this for a long time. Let's try to see if we actually find a good one. Let's see. If what is alleged is true, I'm really shocked that AEW fans think what Jeff Hardy did was okay. As long as there's something being done against the WWE, the AEW fans will find a way to excuse it and make it right. That is absolutely true. To the people that may question or may be annoyed with Jeff Hardy, question. If he wasn't happy and wanted to leave, how was he supposed to? What happens when someone requests release. So how else could he have been able to up and leave? What do you mean? A lot of people who have asked their release for WWE have gotten it. Even maybe not immediately. because there's still, again, some contractual things that have to be done. But a lot of people, who wanted to quit, they eventually got out. Miro asked for his release and then acted like he was a victim when he got fired. FTR wanted to get released. They had to go and negotiate their release, which they ended up doing. Mustafa Ali wants to be released. He probably have to negotiate his release if he wanted to. But he, it is what it is. That's up to him. FTR said, this is what we had to do to get released. Is Mustafa Ali wanted to buy out the rest of his own contract or surrender his royalties or whatever the case may be? If the answer is no, then he doesn't really want to get out. He wants to have his cake and eat it too. That's not going to happen. Now I do think if you want to say WWE needs to have they should pay some type of penalty for firing people. Absolutely. I think they should have to pay out the rest of your contract. That way you do a cut down on the amount of people that they get released because they have to pay out the rest of your contract. And I will say that. That's absolutely true. That's good business. Because you want to slow down the number of releases. You also want to make sure that they're hiring people, not just hiring to be hiring, but they're hiring people they actually have intent to use. So if you want to fire 150 people, you should have to pay all those people whatever you agreed to pay them. That's my opinion. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with people who say like they shouldn't be able to just fire people to get out of a contract. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But, if you're going to bulk fire people, yeah, you should have to pay those people out the rest of their contract, especially if you're firing them without cause. And without cause meaning they didn't actually do anything wrong. If you're firing them for poor performance, okay. If it's creative ain't got nothing to do for you, that's creative fault. That ain't got nothing to do with the performer. Pay them their money. If you're saying, hey, you're not moving units, we put you in a position to sell merchandise. You're not selling merchandise. We got to cut you because you're making too much money and you're not producing, or we got to re-sign you to a new contract when you make less money, yada, yada, yada. That's completely different. In a situation where you let somebody sit at home for months and months and months, like, what was it? The girl from NXT where she sat on the couch for a year. They didn't do anything. Creative has nothing for you. That's not her fault. Firing her because the creative had nothing for her. She should get paid out her contract, pay her the rest of her contract so she can go and do whatever she wants. It's not her fault. So it's definitely the fault of the performer, fault of the company. If the company overspending, then the company should have to pay back at least a percentage. And I'm not saying maybe the whole thing, but maybe a certain percentage of their thing should get paid out. And the wrestler should ask for that in their contract. You got to pay out 40 to 50% of whatever the cost of my thing is to buy me out of my contract. And I think that would be fair. And none of that has anything to do with Jeff Hardy. Not a damn thing. All right. I've been talking about this for an hour. Like, share, and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later.